play during the service, to do all sorts of play, from meditation in the sanctuary to singing to drumming to lawn games to flower arranging, to dance, thank you, to all sorts of different things. I really would like to have some sort of an artsy element, either painting or drawing, but I have called many people, and it's the summer, and people are busy. So if you think, you know what, I could lead that, very simple. All you need to do is put a piece of paper on a table out front and some art supplies from CYM. Please email me, because I still need one volunteer for that. A big thank you to all of our cake bakers. Let's give them a round of applause. Their names are on the back of the order of service, who baked cakes for our party after the service. So this is a birthday party for all of you. So we will have on each table cards with the month. And so you go to the table where your birth month is, and if the cake doesn't appeal to you, you could always get a piece from another table. You don't have to eat that cake. You know, not everybody likes chocolate. Not everybody likes whatever other things are. And then other people may be like, I really want a piece of chocolate cake. So you can go get a piece, but it's a place to build community, meet other people that were born in your birth month. So we'll be doing that after the service. There's also a gluten-free, dairy-free cake available right at the coffee table. You're pointing that way, Dave, right behind you. Yeah. Okay, good. So please do join us for the birthday party out front after the service. Welcome to the service today. It is so good to be together.
Good morning. What a hot, sunny week we have had this week. But can you imagine living someplace like Norway, where the warm, sunny days of summer are so few and so short? I asked because my partner, Judy, and I were talking about Christmas in July, and she said that to her, Christmas in December is our attempt to try to recall or bring back the warm, sunny days of July. She's not sure we need Christmas in July because in July we have July. Judy is a born and bred Cape Codder. In the early days of our relationship, she told me that summer doesn't begin until the 4th of July. I get that, especially if you're a sailor and you work in the boat business. You're lucky if your summer starts by the 4th of July. But then sometime later, Judy said to me, "You know, summer ends on the 4th of July." Which I confess flummoxed me just a little. All I know is that our summers on Cape Cod are very special and very short, aren't they? And we are extremely blessed to live in this wonderful place. We all know that. Even when a plethora of out-of-state vehicles keeps you from making a timely left turn, don't you gloat just a little and think, "Ha, you all have to go home." So I understand Judy's theory of Christmas, that it's our way of recapturing July. And certainly the origins of a yearly festival at that time of year vastly predate the birth of Jesus. We gather to defy the darkness and make manifest the eventual return of light and warmth. The question is, then, what are we celebrating with Christmas in July? My personal favorite thing about Christmas is hanging up all the Christmas tree decorations. We don't always have a Christmas tree, but I always hang up as many Christmas balls as I can possibly squeeze onto lines strung across the window. I love and need that colorful beauty, and I would leave them up for weeks if I could. As I unwrap each treasured ball, I remember its origin, where I bought it, or who gave it to me. And I notice again the craftsmanship and the vibrant hues and the details. It is a ritual of paying attention, and as Marie Kondo urges us, of saying thank you to these precious baubles that bring me such delight and joy. Perhaps this Christmas in July is an opportunity to pay a similar attention, to say thank you to the warmth and sun and soft breezes and the sounds of summer, to all the things we tend to take for granted in our Cape Cod good fortune. Take a moment now, and during this service, and as you go about this lovely day of rest, be attentive to the details that make July so precious and so rewarding. Then in December, when we need it most, maybe we will more easily recall to our hearts and minds all that we cherish most about July. Perhaps if we take time now to treasure these short-lived days of high summer, we will be better able to hold on to the warmth and light once the short, dark days arrive. As we light the chalice this morning, let us be present to the blessings of these summer days. Let us cherish them and each other. Let us hold this warmth and sun for each other, and then share it when the short, cool days come again in December. Blessed be.
Our opening hymn this morning is number 233 in your gray hymnal. Bring a torch, Jeanette Isabella. Please rise in body and or spirit. We'll sing the first two verses in English and then follow it with the verse in French. If your French is not great, it's okay. If your French is wonderful, apologies in advance. Ding. Bring a torch, Jeanette Isabella, bring a torch and quickly run. Christ is born, good folk of the village, Christ is born, and Mary's calling, ah, ah, beautiful is the mother, ah, ah, beautiful is her child. Come and see within the stable, come and see the Holy One. Come and see the lovely Jesus, brown his brow, his cheeks are rosy. Hush, hush, quietly now he slumbers. Hush, hush, quietly now he sleeps. Oh, flambeau, Jeanette Isabella, oh, flambeau, courons au berceau. C'est Jésus pour Jean du amo, le Christ est né, Marie appelle, ah, ah, que la mère est belle, ah, 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 que l'enfant est beau. Please be seated. Oh, sorry. Please stand for the affirmation.
We have some children today, so the children will do the Roman face words, and the rest of the congregation will do the italics, please, and I will work with the children. We believe in love.
Love is the doctrine of this church.
We believe in truth.
The quest for truth is the sacrament.
We believe in helping others.
And service is our prayer.
We believe in the sacredness of life.
To the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine.
Thank you.
For our Time for All Ages today, it's going to be interactive. Who's excited? Okay, the choir is. Let's give a hand to our morning choir, too, because it's so lovely. Yes. This is our first summer of trying a choir in the summer, and so these hardy souls show up at 9, so you could join them. They show up at 9 on Sunday mornings, and it's just so lovely to have you in the services, so thank you for that. So our Time for All Ages this morning is the story, A Christmas Carol. Who wrote A Christmas Carol, Chuck?
Oh my God, I can't.
See, I put him under pressure.
Chuck Dickens.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Chuck, I put you under pressure. I know he knows it, but you know when someone just puts you under pressure. And who knows what religion Charles Dickens was? Unitarian. Hooray! So he was Unitarian, and fun fact about this story is that he actually had to self-publish it because his other Christmas stories, nobody bought them. So he self-published it, and look what we have now today. Before we start telling the story, I just want to do a quick mask check, and please make sure your masks are above your nose. Thank you. Okay, so Elenita and I both have microphones, and we're going to walk around, and you're going to tell the story. So all the kiddos can just remain seated, and you're going to tell the story. So who remembers how A Christmas Carol starts? And I'm not going to put anybody under pressure and shove the mic in your face like I did to poor Chuck. Sorry about that. Who knows how the story starts? Oh, is there a hand in the back?
There can be no doubt about it that Jacob Marley was dead.
Wow, okay, you know verbatim how it starts. I was just saying like the general story, but let's give her a hand. Okay, and then what happens? Who knows what? You don't have to have the written story, but like the general story, how's it go? And either side you can raise your hands. I see a hand back there, Elenita. Everyone's trying to remember the movies you've seen, right?
Scrooge was legitimately terrible to his employee, Bob Cratchit.
Yes, he was. How much coal was allowed on the fire? One. Poor Bob wanted to put. So Scrooge had an employee, Bob Cratchit, and he was terrible. And they were in the office, and Scrooge was, what was he, like a tax guy? I'm not quite sure his job.
He
Something
was
with
like
money.
a landlord, investor, money-making guy.
Yeah, money making. Okay. So then Scrooge and Bob Cratchit are working. It's Christmas Eve. And then what happens? In the office. We're still in the office. Here, Pat, I'm coming over to you.
A group of the townspeople, of men from the town, were going around asking for contributions for the poor, and they visited Scrooge and turned him down flat.
Scrooge turned him down. Yeah, Scrooge turned him. Scrooge did not have a charitable heart. Scrooge was not giving to the split plate, shall we say. Okay, and then what happened? Nope. He gets one more visitor at the office. No. Hold on, not. Hold on one.
His nephew comes to invite him to Christmas.
Yes, his nephew. And what's he say when the nephew invites him?
Bah humbug.
There we go. Good job, everyone. So his nephew comes, son of his beloved sister who had passed away, and he says, well, he doesn't say no thanks, but I'm making him nicer than he was. He says, bah humbug. Okay. And I have this all written just to make sure we don't miss anything. So then what happens? He goes, who said he goes home? We'll just make him go home. And then what happens?
He goes to bed and he has a dream. A spirit appears to him, and it's the dream of Christmas past.
You missed one visitor. Do you know Lindsay?
Oh.
He gets visited by the ghost of Jacob Marley.
Is there someone over there who wants to tell us what Jacob Marley said?
Ebenezer Scrooge, you will be visited by 3 spirits.
Nicely done. Nicely done. Right, Jacob Marley says, I've been dead for 7 years, and he shows up very dramatically with chains hanging on him. In various movies, he has trouble keeping his jaw shut. It's a lot happening. And says you're going to be visited by 3 spirits, and that he has a single chance to avoid the same fate. So he must listen, or his chains are going to be even heavier because he's been continuing to live the same life for the last 7 years. Then what happens?
He's visited by the first ghost, and I believe it's the ghost of Christmas past. Well, I'm doing it from the version of Mr. Magoo's Christmas. So in the Mr. Magoo's Christmas, they have some great songs, and we should. And he gets to see how he was young, and he was much less jaded, and he celebrated at Christmas time with Jacob Marley and all that stuff, and he has a bunch of Christmas pasts that were really good until his heart turns to ice.
Right, and does anyone else remember who he saw in his Christmas past?
He saw his fiancée that he was going to marry, and she sort of gave him one chance and said, you love money more than me, basically. So that's one of and he saw his boss, old Fizzywig, who he made merry with. And let's see. I think there was a sad part too, though. I think he remembered that he was left alone at school over the holidays, and so you start to see a little bit what forged his depression.
Yeah, but a little bit more.
his father really rejected him. I mean, he was really very sad. And that's when his sister comes in. His sister was kind. And this was the very sister who later died and was the mother of the nephew.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pathetic.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, and so then he tells the ghost to leave, and he goes back to sleep. Someone on that side want to tell us what happened with his second visitor? Well, third, really, at that point.
He's then visited by the ghost of Christmas Present.
Yes, and do you remember what happened in that one?
He sees Bob Cratchit and his family at their humble dwelling, and Tiny Tim, who is disabled, and how they don't have any material possessions to celebrate, but they are still loving, happy family at Christmas time.
Yeah.
Because they're together.
Yep, yep. And he also sees another party happening.
His nephew and his wife are having a party with games, and his friends ask him why he continually invites Scrooge, even though he's such a miserable person. And he says he has hope that in that heart is a nicer person.
Yep, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, and then, depending on the movie you're watching, the spirit shows Scrooge two very sad-looking, hungry-looking children. Does anyone remember what the children represent? Want, good, and ignorance. And so then Scrooge goes back to sleep. Third ghost. Well, fourth, really. Donna?
The last ghost is not a talking ghost. He's kind of creepy, looks like the Grim Reaper. He takes Scrooge to the cemetery, and he sees a grave with a cane on it that belonged to Tiny Tim. And Ebenezer is sad, and then he sees another grave that has just been dug up, and he's like, "Spirit, whose grave is this?" And the spirit doesn't answer him still. And he shines a candle on Ebenezer's face, and there on the grave says Ebenezer Scrooge, and he pushes him into his grave, and he's like, falling, and he wakes up.
Well, and also before that, he goes to see a funeral. Well, this version says he goes to a funeral attended by a local businessman only on condition that lunch is provided. And then does everybody remember the scenes where the people are taking his possessions and his bed curtains and things like that? His cufflinks? Exactly. So Scrooge has had a little bit of a transformation. Then what happens?
I'm guessing he wakes up.
He wakes up. And what happens when he wakes up, Marianne?
He jumps out the window and he said, "What day is this?" And he realized that he still has time. And he goes and buys a turkey.
What day is it?
It's Christmas Day.
He calls to some little child and says, "Go buy the biggest goose or turkey, depending on the version, and take it where?" To Bob Cratchit. And then he goes, where does he go for Christmas dinner? To his nephews. Yes. And then what happens the following day?
He goes to the office. So I'll be doing the Henry Winkler version now of Christmas Carol. But not the Vanessa Williams version of Christmas Carol. He goes to the office and he pretends to still be mean, and then Cratchit comes in and you know, he's like, "Put another coal on the fire, and I'm going to double your salary, and I'm going to make it awesome for you." And it's very nice.
And then how does Tiny Tim end the movie? Thank you. Oh, give yourselves a round of applause. And we'll go ahead and play the kids out to the summer program. The kiddos can go ahead and go. Our prayer this morning is We Are Seeking Christmas by Reverend Tom Shade. So I invite you to settle into your seats, cast your eyes down or close them. Just breathe together. O God, who moves among the stars of the cold, clear sky, whose voice whispers in the silence of falling snow, whose silence stills our hearts and leaves us wondering and waiting. Lord, we are seeking Christmas, searching in this season for a hidden door to a forgotten room in the house of our very being, where we can live the lives we meant to live. We are searching for Christmas, seeking in this season to be finally persuaded that hope is not just a good idea, that love is not naive, and that faith is not just the brave face we put on in a hopeless situation. Lord, the fear of all the world is that you have left us alone here, and that this here and now world is all there is or could ever be. Lord, the hope of our age is that you have indeed met us where we are, at an inn at the end of the world, that we might have assurance. You have lifted a lantern to light our path, so that we may follow your footsteps through the snows. Grant us a measure of your Christmas peace. Fill us each with hope and good cheer, and grant that each one be surrounded by those whom they are loved, and that there, in the joyous tumult of this season, we pray that you speak a word of encouragement and grace to every human heart. Amen. Please join me in a moment of silence.
Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
You did so well with that Christmas carol, I just want to say. I was telling Elenita before the service, I'm a little nervous about how this is going to go. She did great. In Defense of Scrooge by Paul Beatty. The ghost of Christmas past made Scrooge rethink and relive his past life at Christmas time. How important it is at Christmas not to try to pretend that life is never filled with sorrow or unhappiness. Of course it is. And there are also memories of gratitude. The Ghost of Christmas Present gave Scrooge a panoramic view of Christmas, the people shopping, some in affluence, some in want. Christmas being celebrated on the high seas in a lighthouse on a rocky coast. Everywhere, the season warmed the hearts of people. This universal aspect of the season is surely part of its grandeur. And Scrooge, I think, must have been impressed by the power of a season to warm so many hearts. The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Be showed Scrooge his own death, lonely and unmourned. Thieves came and stole his very clothes and bed curtains on the day he died. His passing was noted with gladness or not at all. As in a dream, Scrooge was not able to guess whose death and grave the Spirit was showing him. The finger of the Spirit pointed from the grave to him and back again. No, Spirit, no. The finger was still there. Spirit, he cried, tight clutching at its robe. Hear me, I'm not the man I was. I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it in the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach. And so Scrooge came out rather well. For him, Christmas was a time of integration, not of fragmentation. He remembered the past, the sorrow, the incompleteness, but also the gratitude. He was alive to the present, alive to the season. Now, and he also too thought to the future, to what kind of a person he yet could be. And so Scrooge is really the hero of A Christmas Carol, a song of praise to Christmas, because it was Scrooge who allowed his cold heart to be melted and himself to be redeemed and cleansed by Christmas. We should all try to do as well as Scrooge this Christmas.
Our next hymn is number 248, Oh, We Believe in Christmas. Please rise in body and or spirit. Oh, we believe in Christmas, and we keep Christmas Day, and we will honor Christmas, the ancient worldwide way. The Christmas of all peoples, the sun's returning cheer, rung out from towers and steeples at midnight of the year. And we will join at Christmas the song of hope and joy that finds its theme at Christmas in every girl and boy. The flame of life will dwindle as fades the sunset sky, until a child enkindle new light and raise it high. Then sing we all at Christmas the song of that new birth, which holds the hope of Christmas and brings its joy to earth. which knits the generations, each daughter and each son, beyond all tribes and nations, and makes the many one. Shine out, ye lights of Christmas, from hearth and tree and star. The warmth of Christmas shed kindness near and far, and clang ye bells of Christmas upon the frosty air. And may the joy of Christmas spread gladness everywhere. Please be seated.
This morning's offering, so each week we have the process. We do in our, my brain is not working this morning. Each week we have the practice, that's what I was looking for, of splitting our offertory plate. Half of what's collected goes to the work of the congregation, and half goes to a worthy organization nominated by one of you. Our organization this morning is the Martin Luther King Jr. Action Team, which is a branch of Nauset Interfaith Association. The Martin Luther King Action Team is the racial justice arm of the Nauset Interfaith Association, working in partnership with residents of Cape Cod to address systemic racism on Cape Cod by educating themselves and others and building transformative relationships. There are a couple of ways you can choose to give today. You can text to give, the number's in your order of service. You can also place cash or check in the offertory box. If you're streaming, you can donate on our website, or you can you can donate on our website, or you can mail a check to the office. However you choose to give, we thank you for your generosity this morning. The offertory will now be gratefully received.
Duermete Niño Lindo is a Mexican lullaby. You'll hear first the English verses and then the Spanish translation.
Can you say it?
Sure, yes. Duermete Niño Lindo is a Mexican lullaby. We'll sing it in English first, and then we will sing the Spanish.
Oh
Practicing the Scales of Rejoicing by Richard S. Gilbert. We had forgotten how to sing until angel voices from mythical realms of glory split the night with their song. We had forgotten how dark and deep the night until the pure light of a birthing star opened our unseeing eyes. We had forgotten the miracle of new life until some unknown poet caught and sang the mystery. How weary our step until the quickening holy day season. How routine our stride before hearing a different song in the night. How burdened with habit, now infused with time-honored freshness. For the time being, eyes see a magical night of joy. For the time being, ears hear melodies of the Spirit over time's tumults. For the time being, hearts comprehend what minds but dully grasp. For the time being is all that we have, we who are mortal flesh. Somewhere between the triumphant night of birth and the dark day of death we stand. Somewhere between silence of beginning and the eternal deathless silence of ending we pause. For the time being is all that we have for practicing the scales of rejoicing, for singing into the dark and unknown night, for flinging faithful tunes against the cold silence, for beating rhythms of the soul over the cosmic cacophony, for making melodies of meaning in the midst of senseless space, for drawing from constricted voices sounds of joy despite all sadness. For the time being is all we have for practicing the scales of rejoicing.
Does it feel weird yet? Do you feel like you stepped into the Twilight Zone and landed in December? Maybe December in Australia with this weather. It's a little strange, right? Thank you for that. It's a little bit wonky, right? But this year's been a little strange, right? It's been a little wonky. The past 2.5 years have been wonky. And we could keep going further back, but we don't need to rehash that right now. So let's take a moment and check in with your spirit. How's your spirit doing? Anyone want to yell out an answer? What was that?
We are getting by.
Getting by. Okay, other people? Thumbs down, I see. Thumbs up. Thumbs down. A little bit of this. Okay, how about some words?
Hopeful.
Hopeful. Refreshed. Grateful. Contented. Okay, there's way more positive than I thought there would be, so. Disaster. Okay. Heartache. Okay. Challenged. Scared. Tired. Okay. Under threat. Recovering. So my spirit is weary. My spirit is exhausted and in need of replenishing. There are many reasons for this. For one, in June, I went to General Assembly, the annual gathering of Unitarian Universalists. And the whole week, I was so hyper-vigilant about not getting COVID. I had not had it up until then, at that point, and I had plans, and COVID was not part of them. So every time friends would say, can we meet for a meal? This was the first General Assembly since 2019. It was so good to see so many beloveds. I would say, yes, but outdoors. We have to find restaurants outdoors. And I was vigilant about my masking indoors. And every dehydrated evening I would think, am I getting COVID? Or am I just dehydrated because I haven't had enough water today? Do some of you know this COVID anxiety? Does this sound familiar? Anytime you move outside of your routine and go visit friends or family or travel on a plane, it's exhausting. And many of you know I did get COVID. I know exactly where I got it with one friend that I thought I was safe with being unmasked. But like we know, this variant is the most contagious. I'm lucky for me that it was really intense symptoms, but by day 4 or 5, I had pretty much recovered. But this ongoing hypervigilance around COVID is exhausting. And for those of you that are watching the hearings about the insurrection at the Capitol, that's also exhausting. Hearing the details of how our nation's leaders ignored and willingly encouraged that to happen is infuriating, to say the least. And there's so many other reasons I could list why many of us are exhausted right now. Roe versus Wade being overturned, the rising inflation rates, and the economic insecurity that comes with that, living in a society that holds up white supremacy, and then the simple things of just trying to drive anywhere on the Cape right now. It took me 2.5 hours to drive here yesterday from Boston, and let's just say I wasn't a picture of Zen the whole entire time. And there's also the personal losses of our lives, the griefs that we carry, the things that weigh on our hearts that we only let those in our closest circles know. Does any of this resonate with any of you? Ministers often talk about December being a time of overwhelm, but the holiday season often replenishes me. I love the holiday season and everything it represents. I love holiday movies, I love Christmas cookies, I love singing the songs, collecting as many holiday decorations as possible, and gathering with the people I love to tell them that I love them. I know that for some it's a time of stress, it's a time of being overextended, a time of reflection on capitalism and how much stuff we have. But the beauty of celebrating this in July is to be able to move back from that and just appreciate the invitations it gives us. The invitation of Advent is a time to go within, a time to reflect on what's important, to nurture one's spirit and to nurture one's relationships, to go towards friends and family, to go towards each other, to be a little extra kinder to strangers, to let a few people in front of you make that left turn. A couple of months ago, when it was time for my grandmother to enter hospice, she told me that she wished she could write a letter to her dentist, her postal worker, to her doctors, to her neighbors, telling them thank you for helping to care for her, thank you for their service in the world. I said, Grammy, nobody does that when they're dying. Like thinking of her dentist while she's dying? But my grandmother did. And she told me that when she left her home of 40 plus years in Southern California to move to Salt Lake, where my parents live, she sent thank you notes to all of the people who provided services to her hairdresser, her dentist, her postal worker. She thanked them for what they did in the world and told them it made a difference to her because that's who she was. She wasn't a saint, though. Don't be thinking she was a saint. She always made sure to bake them things around the holidays, little cakes, or she would make them jam, and she did the same for everyone in her book club, and in her later years, it often became me or another family member doing those things for her so she could give people those things. Therefore, the first year that I moved here, I put a loaf of some sort of holiday bread in my mailbox with a note of thanks for my postal worker. Of course, I texted my grandmother to tell her I was doing it. And I got a thank you note back. My grandmother helped to remind me of the importance of taking time to let people know that they matter. And the holidays often remind us of this. We give an extra tip to people who cut our hair or clean our houses or bring us food. A Christmas Carol calls us to this. It shows us this miserly character, Scrooge, and it shows him go through this complete transformation in the course of a night. He begins with a heart that's closed off to other people and ends throwing open his windows and proclaiming the joy of Christmas Day, and then proceeds to go to all the people that he cares about and tells them as such. It's never too late to make a Scrooge transformation. Now, am I calling you all Scrooges? No. No, I'm not. But have you found yourself to be a little grouchy, a little less than generous lately? I have. Because the exhaustion shows up like that. And so if you were to be visited by the ghosts of Christmas in July, past, present, and future tonight, what do you think they would show you? And what would you wake up vowing to do? That is your invitation today. To think about what kind of a person you could yet be and try to bring that into being. To bring a little bit of that holiday spirit, that openness to the wonder of life into being right here 6 months before the holidays, 6 months before the end of this year. To think about how you want to frame these next 6 months. To think about how you want to proceed. And if there's anyone you want to give some special gratitude to. And I want to take a quick moment for those who are doing just fine. Some of you with thumbs up when I asked earlier. I'm so happy for you. And I hope you take some of that joy, that openness of spirit, and share it with others. And practice gratitude. Even if you aren't depleted, a gratitude practice helps connect us with each other and strengthens the bonds of community. So I'm going to tell you 2 stories before I end of how I give special thanks, not to make myself seem like a saint, because you all have known me for 5 years and you know I'm far from that, but to tell you that those everyday kindnesses matter, and they're completely doable. The first, I saw a video in the fall of people harassing flight attendants about wearing masks on planes. And I thought how weary flight attendants must be from working through COVID. So now when I fly, I try to remember to bring the flight attendants cookies. And I write on the bag, "Thank you for your service." A friend of mine who travels with her 2 small children writes personalized notes for all the flight crew that she gives them on each flight to tell them thank you. Going a little bit out of your way to thank people makes a difference. The second story. When I order food for takeout or get it delivered or pick it up at a restaurant, I try to tip 25% since the pandemic, because I know that the service industry has been so affected by the pandemic. And here on the Cape, with so many visitors, our service workers could use a little extra love. These are little things that we can do to make a difference in people's lives. Maybe your postal worker could use a little treat in the mailbox or a thank you note. Maybe your hairdresser could use an extra tip in July in addition to December, because times are tight right now. If you have the funds, maybe you could take a friend out to dinner just to be generous. The story of Scrooge invites us to generosity and gratitude, and if you don't have the funds, writing a thank you note just costs the amount of a stamp and the note. This year, I'm going to talk a lot about the importance of personal, daily spiritual practice, and gratitude can be one of those things. Paul Beatty said in our reading, Scrooge came out rather well. For him, Christmas was a time of integration, not a fragmentation. He remembered the past, the sorrow, the incompleteness, but also the gratitude. He was alive to the present, alive to the season now, and he also too thought to the future, to what kind of a person he could yet be. Therefore, today I invite you to think towards the future, towards what kind of a person you could yet be. I love this quote. I've said it many times, and I'll keep saying it. Zen Master Suzuki Roshi says, "You all are perfect just as you are," and does anyone remember the rest? You could use a little improvement. Making space for those things that fill our well and making space for others, this is what helps us to practice the skills of rejoicing that Richard Gilbert talked about in our other reading today. He said, "For the time being is all we have for practicing the scales of rejoicing, for singing into the dark and unknown night, for flinging faithful tunes against the cold silence, for beating rhythms of the soul over the cosmic cacophony, for making melodies of meaning in the midst of senseless space, for drawing from constricted voices sounds of joy, despite all sadness. For the time being is all we have for practicing the scales of rejoicing." May you practice the scales of rejoicing this month and for the 6 months ahead. May you move in the world with a little bit of extra kindness, a little bit of extra care towards yourself and others. This will help us to tune into the symphony around us that is practicing the scales of rejoicing. It will help us to hear them and lift our voices in song with each other. Amen.
Our closing hymn is number 245, Joy to the World, and the hymn has lyrics in the order of service that are not the traditional lyrics, and so we will finish Joy to the World with the traditional Joy to the World, the Lord has come lyrics that many of you may know. Please rise in body and or spirit. All 3 verses first. Joy to the word is come. Let earth with praises ring. Let every heart prepare a room, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing. Joy to the earth, now gladness reigns. Let hearts their songs employ, while fields and floods, rocks, hills and plains, Repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy. Repeat, repeat the sounding joy. More let sins and sorrows grow, nor thorns infest the ground. Let righteousness its glory show, as far as love is found, as far as love is found, as far as love is found. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing. Heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing.
I'm going to give a little instructions before our benediction. So you're going to exit out these doors unless you need to use a restroom or go get your child. And each table has a card with it with the birthday month. So you're going to go to the table with your month. If you're going to the tables that are down the slope, go down the paved path a little bit and then make a left, because if you go straight down, it's a little bit of a hill. So, and if you see someone who might need a hand, here's a chance to practice some kindness. Offer a hand. And all of our cake bakers are going to go get their cakes, which are not melting in the parish room, and bring them outside where you're going to consume them so they won't melt. Hopefully none of you will as well. And then we will join, when I come out, we'll do a round of happy birthday, okay? So for our benediction today, I invite you to turn towards each other. I want you to just look at each other. All of these people are opportunities for you to practice kindness and gratitude, and you never know what the difference it could make to someone. Practice a little kindness with each other, dear ones, and practice a little kindness with yourself. Go in peace and love. Merry Christmas in July.
Pardon me? It's nice to see you.